Friday, June 26, 2020, 6:40 a.m. Rain dripped steadily over a quiet stretch of terraced houses in Greater Manchester. The street was still, but behind the calm, armed police officers were taking position. For months, investigators had tracked an empire that thrived in silence. A network moving millions of pounds in drugs and dozens of deadly firearms across the country. To its members, it was invisible, untraceable. But that morning, the illusion would shatter. In the shadows of Manchester's skyline, a criminal machine was running with the precision of a global enterprise. Its architect, Omar Malik, wasn't the loud or reckless type. He operated quietly, preferring encrypted phones to public displays. From a sleek apartment in the city centre, Malik directed a network that stretched from London to Glasgow, even reaching into Ireland, distributing cocaine, MDMA, and amphetamine on an industrial scale. What began as a local supply ring had transformed into one of the most efficient organised crime groups in northern England. Every member had a role, every transaction was logged, and every conversation happened through EncroChat, an encrypted system once thought to be unbreakable. Inside this hidden ecosystem, Malik's alias was Payabills. He called the shots, assigning drop-offs and pickups through code words that seemed meaningless to outsiders. His trusted associate, Adrian Gonzalez, known on EncroChat as Terry Tibbs, oversaw operations from a luxury apartment at Ancoats Marina, a polished development that masked its darker purpose. Police would later discover cocaine, MDMA, ammunition, and hundreds of thousands of pounds in sealed cash inside that flat, all vacuum-packed, ready for shipment. The logistics team included Connor Sandlin, who handled courier runs across Britain, and Daniel Gibbons, a strategist who created Global Trades UK Limited, a fake company designed to disguise the import of firearms as legitimate business. Daniel Waters, operating as Obscure Twig, started as a runner but expanded the network by recruiting new drivers and distributors. Andrew Cooney acted as a broker, connecting the group to clients in different cities, while Shan Hogan, under the alias Dull Hyena, managed cocaine distribution and firearm purchases. It was a hierarchy that mimicked a corporate chain of command. Malik as the CEO, Gonzalez the operations manager, and the others functioning like mid-level executives. The rewards matched the risk. Detectives later found £600,000 in cash, high-end cars, and paperwork linking Cooney to an Italian villa used for laundering profits. But what truly set this network apart wasn't just the drugs. It was their growing arsenal of military-grade weapons. Scorpion submachine guns, Grand Power pistols, and thousands of rounds of ammunition moved through their hands. Detectives would later call it the most advanced firearms trafficking network Britain had ever seen. Then came the break that changed everything. In March 2020, cybercrime investigators in France and the Netherlands achieved the impossible. They hacked EncroChat's servers. Overnight, the encrypted system that criminals believed was untouchable became a window into their world. Millions of secret messages were now visible to European law enforcement. That intelligence was handed to the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, which launched Operation Venetic, a nationwide crackdown on encrypted crime. Within Greater Manchester Police, a specialist team created their own branch of the investigation, Operation Glassy. Their goal: identify the real people behind EncroChat usernames. It was slow, methodical work. Investigators spent weeks linking digital aliases to actual suspects through location data, surveillance, and financial records. The messages they uncovered painted a chilling picture. There was no bravado, no emotion, just business. Guns and cocaine were discussed like items on an invoice. A single message read, 10 ready there, with 300 sweets. The 10 referred to Scorpion machine guns, and sweets meant bullets. Another message said simply, as we go to war, at least we got heat. These weren't metaphors, they were logistics notes, proof that violence was part of the business model. The group priced their weapons like wholesale stock, Scorpions at £9,000 to £15,000 each, handguns between £5,000 and £8,500. Other chats referenced shipments heading north and weapons bound for gangs in Ireland, with mentions of conflicts in Scotland later tied to violent turf wars in Glasgow and Belfast. As the digital trail grew, one investigator, Detective Inspector Danny Young, described it as the highest level of firearm trafficking we've ever seen. By May 2020, physical surveillance confirmed what the data had already exposed. The gang was running a nationwide trafficking empire. A digital ledger recovered later revealed 739 kilograms of cocaine, distributed between January and May, worth over £25 million wholesale, or £70 million on the street. Alongside it, records of 52 Scorpion submachine guns and 49 Grand Power pistols being moved to other gangs. The scale was staggering. The coordination flawless. But the clock was ticking. The NCA, GMP, and the Crown Prosecution Service's Complex Casework Unit worked side by side to map every movement, every courier, every stash house, every cash pickup. The pattern was now undeniable. By early June 2020, detectives knew they had the full picture. Every phone, car, and message had been traced. Every alias had a face. The empire that once hid behind encrypted walls was now completely exposed, and the countdown to the takedown had begun. By April 2020, the web of encrypted messages had given detectives a full blueprint of the network, its leaders, couriers, stash houses, and weapons routes. But sometimes, even the most calculated operations unravel from a small mistake. On the morning of April 22, 2020, officers in West Yorkshire carried out what looked like a routine vehicle stop. Inside the car, they found a loaded Grand Power 9mm handgun, ammunition, and a bag filled with cash. The driver was calm, insisting the car wasn't his, claiming he had no idea what was inside. But when detectives seized his phone, the story changed completely. It wasn't an ordinary mobile. It was an EncroChat device, one already under live surveillance. Within hours, analysts matched the user profile to an alias they had been tracking for months, Stelboat. The man behind the handle was Connor Sandlin, one of Malik's trusted couriers. That single discovery cracked open the empire. News of the arrest spread quickly through the encrypted network. Messages began flying between the group's key members. One of ours being lifted with heat, Gonzalez warned. Switching this off, bro, another replied. Then came the question that revealed their panic. Feds can't get in them, can they? But the damage was already done. Law enforcement wasn't just inside. They were reading every word in real time. As the realization sank in, Malik's crew began to panic. Money, weapons, and encrypted phones vanished overnight. Surveillance teams logged couriers rushing between addresses, pulling boxes out of stash houses, and burning documents. At one property, investigators later found evidence that £300,000 in cash had been moved or destroyed in less than 24 hours. At Ancoats Marina, officers observed men carrying boxes into cars, each one leaving within minutes. Inside one recovered box, forensics found traces of ammunition, proof that weapons had just been moved. June 14, 2020, 5 a.m. Across Greater Manchester, tactical teams prepared for one of the largest simultaneous raids the force had ever coordinated. In the city centre, officers surrounded a luxury apartment at St Mary's Parsonage, home to Omar Malik. When the door burst open, Malik didn't fight. He sat calmly on the sofa, his EncroChat handset tucked beneath a cushion. Around him lay £15,000 in cash, gold jewellery, and several phones. Silent symbols of a criminal empire that had finally fallen. A day later, raids continued. In Reddish, detectives intercepted Daniel Gibbons and Daniel Waters as they tried to leave a flat carrying heavy holdalls. Inside, police discovered a shocking cache. 2 Scorpion submachine guns, 2 handguns, 1,098 rounds of live ammunition, £616,000 in cash, several kilos of drugs hidden inside a freezer. Among the documents seized was proof of their front company, Global Trades UK Limited, the fake business they used to conceal the import of weapons. That same night, Adrian Gonzalez was caught leaving his high-rise apartment. His EncroChat device had been wrapped in plastic and buried under artificial grass on his roof terrace, in a desperate attempt to hide it. By June 25th, the last 2 remaining members were taken down. Shan Hogan was arrested in Denton with a taser, cash, and a quarter kilo of cocaine in his car. Hours later, Andrew Cooney was caught in Alderley Edge, his luxury property holding watches, Porsche paperwork, £250,000 worth of assets, and files linking him to an Italian villa used for laundering money. Within days, it was over. What had taken years to build had fallen in less than a week. Months later, the case moved to Minchell Street Crown Court in Manchester. The trial lasted 6 weeks, as prosecutors laid out a staggering amount of evidence: digital, financial, and physical. Prosecutor John Elvidge Casey described the operation as a criminal business run with the discipline and precision of a corporation. Only one man, Andrew Cooney, took the stand, claiming an unknown passenger had been using his car and phone. The jury dismissed the story immediately. The mountain of evidence was overwhelming. Judge Bernadette Baxter summarized it with chilling accuracy. Your messages showed no emotion, just the language of trade. You acted not as gangsters, but as colleagues in a business built on drugs and guns. Outside court, senior officers called it a once-in-a-career operation, one that tore down one of Britain's most dangerous organised crime networks. Then came the sentences. Omar Malik, the ringleader, 38 years. Connor Sandlin, 30 years and 5 months. Daniel Gibbons, 28 years. Daniel Waters, 26 years and 5 months. Andrew Cooney, 27 years. Adrian Gonzalez, 25 years. Sar Hogan, 24 years. In total, nearly 199 years of imprisonment were handed down. As the final verdicts echoed through the courtroom, one fact became clear. The men who had built their empire on secrecy and encryption were now fully exposed. Their encrypted phones had promised invisibility. Instead, they delivered evidence, line by line, word by word. And with that, Britain's most sophisticated digital drug empire ceased to exist. While Manchester's encrypted empire was collapsing under Operation Venetic, another organisation, smaller, quieter, but no less profitable, was thriving further north. Its strength didn't come from technology. It came from trust, routine, and family. At the centre was Abid Hussain, 28, a disciplined and soft-spoken man from Rochdale. To neighbours, he looked like a working professional with a steady life. In reality, he ran a supply line feeding heroin, cocaine, and crack cocaine into towns across Lancashire, Greater Manchester, and Yorkshire. Hussain treated crime like commerce, reliable shipments, loyal customers, and predictable profits. His partner, Mariam Akhtar, 31, helped him manage the cash flow, counting, packaging, and coordinating deliveries with a precision that made their small flat feel more like an office than a home. Hussein's uncle, Yasar Mahmoud, 46, worked as both courier and camouflage. By day, he drove a licensed taxi. By night, he moved Class A drugs and collected payments hidden among legitimate fares. Each link in the chain served a purpose. Ibrahim Ashraf, 32, from Blackburn, acted as a bulk buyer, collecting up to 1 kilo of cocaine every week. In Newton Heath, Liam Collins, 38, managed distribution for Manchester's local market. And further east, Oval Bailey and Mohinder Hoko, both based in Leeds, purchased smaller batches, spreading Hussein's product across West Yorkshire. The operation's base sat on Meadowcroft Lane in Rochdale, an unremarkable flat from the outside, but inside it was the engine room of a multi-million-pound trade. Kitchen counters were lined with scales, cutting agents, and heat seal bags. In drawers and cupboards, bundles of cash shared space with powder-filled packets, ready for the streets. To the untrained eye, it looked ordinary. To detectives, it would soon look like one of the biggest drug production sites ever uncovered in the town. Despite the modest surroundings, the profits told another story. Hussein and Akhtar spent freely. Stays at London's Shangri-La Hotel, shopping trips at Harrods, designer clothes, and luxury dinners, all funded by cash that never saw a bank. Their confidence grew with their income, but so did the attention of law enforcement. In early 2016, analysts at Lancashire Constabulary's Serious Crime Unit noticed a pattern. Identical quantities of cocaine moving through East Lancashire week after week. Each handoff paid in full and on time. The trail led back to one name, Ibrahim Ashraf. To understand where the supply was coming from, detectives launched Operation Kellington, a targeted investigation designed to trace the network from street dealers to its source. Over surveillance teams watched Ashraf's routines. Every week he met the same contact, accepted the same bag, and returned with cash. Mobile phone data soon linked him to a number registered in Rochdale, a number belonging to Abid Hussein. From that moment, Hussein became the primary focus. Investigators quietly expanded the probe, uncovering his partner Akhtar and his uncle Mahmoud, whose taxi movements aligned almost perfectly with known drug drops. By midsummer, investigators had enough to make their move. Monday, August 15th, 2016, 12:10 p.m. Detectives watched as Yasar Mahmoud left the Meadowcroft Lane flat carrying a black sports bag. Within minutes, uniformed officers intercepted his taxi. Inside the bag, they found 116 grams of crack cocaine, 82 grams of powder cocaine, 371 grams of heroin. Altogether, roughly £40,000 worth of Class A drugs. Mahmoud was arrested instantly. As soon as the news reached the command team, a second unit prepared to hit the flat. The door was breached moments later. What awaited them inside stunned even veteran officers. Almost every room contained evidence of industrial-scale drug production. On the kitchen table, open tubs of caffeine powder, scales dusted white, and half-filled wraps of heroin. In the bedrooms, drawers stuffed with cash and rolls of cling film. In the living room, a cash-counting machine, still warm from use. By the time the search ended, the numbers were staggering. 23 kilograms of Class A drugs, heroin, cocaine, crack cocaine. £164,000 in cash, much of it sealed in vacuum packs. Detectives later described it as one of the largest seizures ever made in Rochdale. The arrests triggered a year-long investigation that ended in the courtroom. In August 2017, the case reached Preston Crown Court, where prosecutors laid out the story built from months of surveillance, phone data, and forensic evidence. The evidence was overwhelming. Most defendants entered early guilty pleas, sparing the jury a lengthy trial. The judge summarized the organization as a business built on consistency and secrecy, rather than violence or visibility. Detective Inspector John Roy, who led the operation, later told reporters, "This case proves our commitment to dismantling cross-border supply lines that poison communities. However carefully these networks hide, persistence pays off." When sentencing came, the hierarchy of Hussein's network became clear. Abid Hussein, organizer and supplier, 16.5 years in prison. Mariam Akhtar, assistant and money handler, 3.5 years. Yassar Mahmood, courier, 9 years. Ibrahim Ashraf, bulk buyer, 9 years. Liam Collins, distributor, 4 years. Oval Bailey and Mohinder Hokko, small-scale buyers. 6-month suspended sentences and 80 hours community work each. In total, the group faced over 40 years of imprisonment. The sentences marked the end of another criminal enterprise that had seemed invisible. One built not on encrypted phones or digital codes, but on family loyalty and routine. Two different stories, one driven by technology, the other by tradition. Yet both ended the same way, inside a courtroom. From encrypted servers in Europe to small flats in Rochdale, these investigations revealed how the UK's drug economy runs on both innovation and familiarity. One empire built on code, another on trust. Both convinced they were untouchable. Both brought down by persistence, patience, and precision policing. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more true crime investigations on Truth Unraveled.